So here's our the long-awaited summary of Shadows on the Grave short stories throughout each issue. This is an overview of the covers. This one's related to a story inside. This one is not related, more to Denaeus' story. That's in another video I described this that storyline. This isn't related. This is related to a story inside. This isn't related. This is, and this isn't. So let's get to it. So I've got basically my favorites from each issue I'll describe, and then I'll describe my favorite overall. I'm just going to give a quick summary of each issue's short stories. There's usually 3 per issue. Sometimes there's 2. So first story is Strung Along, about 2 puppets, and they're kept actually as slaves. They actually are people, and this kid finds them and helps them escape. But things don't go as they should, and the whole entire trailer with the kids and the old man, they all die and burn. So, Roots in Hell, a plane crash on a remote island, just a couple going for a vacation. And the plane goes down, and they're stranded, and they start to feel a little weird, seeing some weird plants. And after a while, this guy wakes up, and next thing you know, he's turning into the bog monster. And he chases his girl, and the girl gets away in a boat. The boat is found later, and all they find inside are some sticks. Okay, for better or for worse, an old couple, they hate each other. He beats the wife poisons him, and people start investigating, asking around, and turns out the poison didn't work, and he is still kicking. Okay, my favorite one in that one was Strung Along, the 2 puppets. If you've ever read a horror writer, Thomas Ligotti, I think that you'll see a few stories in here that I would say have a little bit of his work in it themed, which is a really, really good thing. Number 2, first have a muddy plot. A couple swindlers trying to take an old lady out of her fortune, but she's wise to them, and they kill her, or at least they think they are. They do. They bury her, and then they go back to the house and start looking for the treasure. End up going down to the cellar where his dead brother's there, and they hear noise up top, slam, and they're trapped in this old house, and the lady reanimates and back in her chair. That's an awesome view. That's a really good view. Okay, The Thing in the Swamp. There's an old story of what monsters lurk in the swamp, and this nephew and his uncle have a story about the nephew goes looking for the uncle and finds him, and he's pretty much delirious. I'm dying, the lamia. And they stay there that night, and she hears a noise. The nephew hears a noise and crawling out from the dark. And I guess they're engaging in unspeakable deeds that result in the nephew can't take it, and he takes his own life. Don't Steal from the Dead. Graveyard, grave robber finds an old lady there. She's all shrouded in mystery. And he tries to steal her, or he wants to buy her amulet, then tries to steal it, but she fights him off and he escapes. And he comes back later that night to the grave, opens the grave. There's the old amulet, and the amulet comes to life. The body comes to life and kills him. In that one, I would definitely put a muddy plot where the 2 swindlers are trapped in a basement alive. That'd be pretty brutal. Number 3 is Bogged in the Bayou. It's a woman is lost, and at least it says so. She goes to this mansion, says she's lost, she's let in. And there's some real, let's say, unsavory characters there. And he's going to take her to the back room to to kill her or something, and the door slams and he's smiling. The other guy, but all he hears is blam, blam, blam. Comes out, shoots the other guy. Or no. I'm Agnes Bennett. I used to live here. My cousin was Emily Davis, one of your victims. We were very close. I knew something was wrong, so I came. This is a small payback for what you two did. Good revenge story. The grave files. 2 grave robbers find this cursed amulet. The abhorrent necrotic. It's got to be worth a fortune. And that was the rest of him. They take off. They escape the swarm. Back at their house, there's the 3 of them. And they have all of their old treasures. Grave robbing. Hall of Fame puts this in its case. Some arguing among the 2 other guys. They think they can pull one over and steal the amulet. But one of them gets caught by the leader and gets killed. The other guy comes back to see if the amulet's still there, and this guy's decimated, and then the swarm takes him out too. And such pretty little toes with Jan Sternad, and this looks like an old 70s, early 80s style, even with the art. So I don't see any reprint date here, so if it's modern, that's pretty cool too. Because Corben's summer and remote forest drawings are just incredible. So these 2 people are lost. They go to this little cabin. There's a crazy old man there. Maybe he shows them he has this big giant bear's toe. Okay, and so this guy turns out to be psychotic. They look inside his fridge, but he's got a gun. And he ties them up. But then they hear a crash and a fight in the next room. And the blood is everywhere, but one of the bloody footprints is missing a toe. All right. Yeah, I think that one, my favorite, is The Grave Flies, but Bog in the Bayou is nice too. Actually, all 3 of those were nice. Okay, number 4, we've got the Clown, a thief at a festival. So it's just basically him just trying to pull some crimes and getting always chased by this clown. So he kills the first person he sees, wears a disguise. And there's the clown again. Gets involved in this other affair, gets accused of murder by this woman, and he has to take off. He's got a mob chasing him, and he's hiding. But then there it is, the clown. And it kills him. Here's an offbeat one called Flex, weightlifting competition. Guy's approached by this dealer, mysterious dealer. 1 drop is all it takes. Stick it on your tongue. So he takes a drop on his tongue. Flex. And here's some Corben doing what he does best. So this guy says he wants $1 million for it. He says, I can't pay that. Oh, shame. Turns around, the guy grabs a crowbar and brains him and kills him and steals it. But then the guy wakes up, pops another one in souls, and goes on his business. See, double. So the next day at the competition, guy takes the little dose, but then gets nervous and he doesn't think, and he thinks this is his last desperate chance, and he drinks it all. And then it starts to work, and he just becomes this gigantic, unstoppable Akira monster. Ugh, pain, snap. Alrighty, so that one, well, that had 2 stories in that one, and I liked Flex just because it was just a little different. Number 5, The Island. Lost at night. Goes into a house, and there's an old lady in the house. And the storm is getting bad. And all around the house, the water's rising. Don't need to get into the whole story, but he tries to escape, and the car just gets consumed by the rising tide. Pouring and pouring, he tries to escape, and he's caught up in these weeds and roots, and he's dead. All right, Mirror image, a swindler meets a young woman. He's trying to get to the old lady, but the woman says she's the caretaker. So this guy's feeling suspicious. I'm going to find out what it is. Something unusual is going on here. He sneaks in and he hides in one of the rooms. As she approaches and pulls down a tarp, and there's a mirror. In the mirror is her true self. You are my Aunt Lorraine. And these two get in an argument. And unfortunately, she brains him. Knocks him out. But as she leaves, there's a fire. She's going to bury him. But there's a fire going on in the house. The fire eventually consumes the mirror. So this is her gruesome end. Blind Choice. Kind of a masterpiece. The blind girl's taken to the South American village, far, far remote village, to see the witch doctor and get a cure for her blindness. And all she sees are blurry two figures. She only hears their voices, but she can. One figure is one of a guide, and the other figure is more like a guard. So they eventually meet up and get to the tribe. And she explains the case to the witch doctor. Okay, and so the procedure begins. He opens this little box, and outside's a spider, and he puts the spider on her eye. Just sit there, and he just filled it with poison, the pain. But she ends up getting her sight back. Now, the two others with her were captured, and she's being given a choice now. She can pick one to die and one to come with her. Do it, or you will all be tortured to death. And she leaves with this guy, this Rocco-looking guy. But she picked the wrong one. Why do you call me Mark? I'm Zickman Marag, your guide. By the way, thanks for saving my skin back there. When that savage mentioned the village massacre, I thought it was a goner. If you play your cards right, you might make it back to civilization. Yeah. Oh, boy. Okay. Number 6 is The Grifter. It's a con man's car breaks down. He goes into town. And the oddest thing, the townspeople basically worship him. They give him everything he wants. He has no idea why. He thinks that he's pulling some over on them. So they give him a meal, put him up in a hotel, and even one of their daughters comes by and he demands that he has her. So she's taken and does her thing. But the next day, as he's about to leave, everybody stops him, puts a crown on his head. Big cheer parade, and he's hung. Oh, so easy, so gullible. So, next one is Trapped. This poacher sees one of his traps caught as a bear-human hybrid. What is it? Vicious little bugger. Shoots it, kills it, guts it, takes off. Park ranger comes up, sees what he did. Too late. Guy shoots him. So the guy leaves, hears something suspicious, but noises, but goes back to his cabin. I just think that's a pretty cool picture. That's really neat. Okay, later that night, he's being chased by something. He can't see it though. He's being stalked in the woods. Doesn't go back to his cabin. He's running from it. Shoots it, but he runs off. He runs into one of his own traps. Dropped his gun. And it's time for his justice. Cool story. Trapped. Birthday. Psychiatrist talking to a patient. And he's in a cemetery. He's always eating birthday cake. He's being chased by a zombie reanimated woman. He says that it's because of guilt. Guilt for what? Hidden memories. Turns out the kid years and years ago at the graveyard didn't want to be there. And he pushed her into a gravestone, smashed her head in with a rock. And the guy's still in denial. But then psychiatrist starts singing happy birthday, turning into this grave monster, and just does him in. Psychological one there. I like the that one. I like the trap story of the poacher being chased. That one, number 7. Legacy of Hate. 2 nephews trying to swindle an old man, and the mansion burns. They want to find a way into a hidden crypt. And they do their exploration, their spelunking. And they go all the way down to the bottom, crawling up through these tunnels. Arrow takes one guy, springs a trap. So the other guy comes into a room. There's a body. And he gets what he wanted. Nope, he panics and leaves. He's got to get out of here. But he's trapped. It's a labyrinth. Till he dies. Digger, a graveyard owner, abusing his worker, telling him to switch over expensive graves that he grave boxes that he sold, switch them with some cheap plywood ones. He's giving him crap for that. Later at the guy's shack, the worker's shack, the old graveyard owner goes and spies on him, sees that he's talking to somebody, barges into the apartment, and him with his wife, his dead wife. And those two get into a fight. Nice, but he knows the guy caught him trying to give her poison. Thought it killed her. But the woman wakes up out of her. I guess the poison wore off, woke up and kills him. The graveyard owner, the worker, wakes up, and he probably doesn't have any idea what's going on. Okay, Roadside Horror Museum. Couple people, hitchhikers picked up. They go along the road and they find this old museum. They see this old lady. She's taking them on the tour. There's all these sculptures outside, bizarre sculptures. And this man thinks it's just paper mache. So he wants to leave. Gets in his car. You see on the road, just driving out of the road, they see something on the road, and it's another person who's being consumed, slowly turned into that. So this guy decides to go back and take care of her. I guess find that old bee through here. But something is not going right for him. Everything's turning bizarre. He grabs the old woman. But then all of a sudden his friend, the hitchhiker, grabs him, and both of them smash him face first into one of the sculptures. And the virus takes hold of him. And the inking contrast on this scene. It's incredible. And so, yeah, this was their swindle. This was their little scheme. Get that simple marker shading pencil. Classic Corbin. Okay, so I don't know. I like all three there in that one, but I'll give it to the Roadside Horror Museum. Great art and good story. Final issue is Antique Shop, where this guy is a shoplifter, and he's desperate to make ends meet. So he goes into this shop and he steals this urn that he peers through the window, sees this man talking to this urn. There you are, you little cutie. And so later, the guy breaks into the antique shop. Grabs the urn and pulls out, what the hell, a kid. Very strange kid, strange and deformed. He kept it in a jar. I feel weird. What's happening? Feels alive. I don't get it, but there's money to be made here. Takes the kid home. He's about to leave, but the antique owner wakes up. He's knocked out, clubbed. Ouch. Candlestick to the head. All right, so the guy leaves with his little kid. Takes it back to his room. And the headline the next morning. Here's the antique owner waking up. Grisly murder. Mutilated body found in Skid Row flophouse. Mysterious attack by small animal. Police baffled. Is it? Well, there you are. You came back. I knew you would, you little Dickens. Alrighty. The dare. Boys explore a graveyard. One gets tricked. Dare to go into a crypt. Goes in, the other friend locks him in. Takes off. So later on, what happened? He can't open it, that it's stuck. So he takes off. He knows he's going to get in trouble, but he goes to get help. Will's whimpering grew into a frantic wail as he peered back into the opaque black of his prison. He was scared and alone. The sepulchral silence was broken by intermittent sobbing. Then all became quiet. The bared teeth of death smiled in salient domination. The fetid aura of putrefaction drifted through the necropolis. Bixby searched through the huge garden of ghastly crumbling stones for nearly an hour before finding the caretaker's shack. It took another 10 minutes to summon the courage to rouse the cranky old drunk from his stupor. Damn you little brat, if you're lying, I'll whoop you good. When they go back to the crypt, door's unlocked, goes in, doesn't find his friend. Bixby Kidmer ran all the way home thinking he was getting even with them for his dare and the trick. He probably would be waiting on his front porch. He wasn't. His friend Will Jackson was never seen again. Years later, his parents finally gave up hope and moved away. Years passed. So now we're in the present, and Bixby's going back to the crypt. Haunted look. That barely heard child's voice. Bixby, come in, Bixby, I dare ya. You were my friend, Bix. I trusted you. Now it's your turn. There was an overpowering scent of something rotten as Bixby stepped forward. Will? And he waits his just desserts. And a hill of husbands is a black widow. She marries these men and kills them for their money. But their hatred was too strong, I guess, and they exploded out of the graves to chase her. And these three are lumbering down until she gets to her house, which is an actual crypt, and she's got a grave. Her mother's in there talking to her. But she asked her to get help for something else, from something else. So she reaches into her purse and finds something. You'll see what it is in a minute. Zombies knock it out of her hand. Just barely. She's about to get torn apart, but she barely blows into this whistle. And the whistle summons Wilson, their family dog that was also dead and buried, comes to life. And this dog rips them apart. Oh, stinky. Rest now, my darling, you've earned it. As she walked wearily through the graveyard, Marina resolved to not waste any more money on extra memorial wreaths. Her driver was alarmed when he saw that she had been assaulted and her clothes were in rags. She just smiled and said, "A dog is a girl's best friend. A dead dog, that is." So that's it. That's the 8 issues summary. And my favorite of all time was probably The Blind Choice. The woman and the 2 guides went and found an antidote for her blindness and chose the one that she thought was the most dependent, but she based it on looks, and her life entirely turned around. So I hope you like this. I think this is classic Corben. Great quality books, printing, lettering, everything. Covers by Dark Horse. And so, all right, I will be back when I'm back with my next Corben review comic. Thanks for watching.